Hi everyone. Thanks for attending our webinar. I'm just waiting another couple of minutes for people to enter. Hope you're all having a good day. Great, we've got quite a few people coming on to this webinar, so I can see them all coming in there. We'll give them a little bit longer.
Quite good attendance.
Yeah,
thanks about that.
Looking good.
Must be you, Steph.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm not the most pretty one here.
Special guest.
I'm not Mr. Universe.
Not yet.
You've got lots to say. Well, it's 3 o'clock UK time, 4 o'clock in Europe. So I think we'll get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. You're here to find out more about MMA technology and the case study from BNS. I'm Louise Scott, Global Marketing Manager for IPS Adhesives, and I'll be the moderator today. Joining us is Deklyn Barnes, Business Development Manager at IPS, and Stef Jaspersen, a European Adhesive Specialist at BNS Industrial BV. So here's how today will run. We'll start with a presentation, followed by a question and answer session at the end. The presentation will run for about 25 minutes. And if you've got any questions throughout the presentation, put them in the Q&A box at the top. And at the end, we'll answer them. If we don't get to all the questions and with answers, we'll email you them after the webinar. Just to let you know that the session is being recorded and will be shared with attendees afterwards. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Deklyn.
Thank you very much, Louise. And thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. Hopefully you can see my screen. I'll be clicking the slides as we go forward today. If there's anything, if I'm going too quick or too slow, please let me know and we'll try and accommodate. But as Louise said, I'm Deklyn Barnes. So I joined IPS in January, so just over 6 months. So I look after the structural SCIGRIP adhesive for the UK and Ireland, and also the surfacing adhesive Integra for Europe. Been in the adhesive game about 15 years across multiple functions, and really pleased to be here and joined by my great colleague Stef, who can introduce himself.
Yes, well, my name is Stef Jaspersen. I'm a European Adhesive Specialist. I followed the course at Fraunhofer. We are distributor for IPS, especially the brand of SCIGRIP in the Benelux and also in Southeast Asia with our sister company. It's called AB Composites, and we do this already since 12 years.
Perfect. So, like Louise says, we're here today to talk about IPS and our joint partnership with BNS. But really, I just wanted to give a bit of a background of what IPS is. I'm assuming you guys all know, but for ones that don't. So we're a leading provider of structural adhesives. We also have a surfacing range and assembly adhesives, but really what we focus on, or what I like to focus on, is the SCIGRIP structural adhesives. We've got over 65 years of expertise. A big selling point for me within the organisation and to help you guys is that we're actually a global manufacturer. So we have operating sites in North America and the UK, which allow us to serve OEMs globally. And that's a really key point, especially in the current climate where supply chain is changing. So we have labs, supply chains in 2 locations that allow us to supply seamlessly. We've got all the technical support, which really, help us be a top player in the adhesive game. And the brand that we're going to talk about is the SCIGRIP, which is our structural MMA adhesive. So I'm assuming most of you know, but an adhesive is a non-metallic substrate, which is used to bond 2 surfaces together. So we specialize in MMA adhesives. So it's a 2-component acrylic. So really you have an activator and an adhesive, and they come together, added with the tougheners and rubber agents to create a structural adhesive, which can be used in all different processes in manufacturing techniques. Why and really what's so special about an MMA is you've got your basic characteristics. So you've got your mix ratios. You've got normally in MMA, you've got a 1-to-1, 10-to-1. So it's a lot easier than some of the other chemicals on the market. You have a fast handling strength, a high bond strength, really strong lap shears, great for gap filling, and also a wide surface temperature range. Now, temperature really affects an MMA because you can have a really short window or a really wide window. But how I describe it is the snap cure. So basically, you have a working time. It then reacts. It creates that exothermic reaction, which is what I call the snap cure. And then you have your fixture time, and that is key. The fixture time is what really brings MMAs to the forefront of manufacturing expertise, because it means you can get your parts moving a lot more quicker in your production lines. You're not waiting hours and hours for your parts to form that bond. Once you've had that snap cure and you allow the specific fixture time, that's really when you can get your parts moving. Now, where MMA sit within the three main players, so you obviously have your PUs and epoxies. Now, epoxies have been around for many, many years, and they're high strength, they're fantastic. However, they can be quite brittle. You have your polyurethanes, which are really flexible, but not that high strength. And this graph shows it perfectly where an MMA sits. So you have your high strength, so we're talking about 20 MPa still, but you've still got that elongation, you've still got that movement. So this scatter diagram or spider graph, whatever you would like to call it, on the right, really shows in the orange where an MMA sits. So you can see it near enough outperforms the PUs, and it's with all the characteristics of the epoxies. So it's the best of both worlds, and that's really why a lot of manufacturers are using it in their operations, because you can do everything you want with an epoxy, but you also got a bit of wiggle room with your movement and elongation. So the rubber tougheners really come into light there to enable you to have the best product for the mix. The advantages of an MMA, well, a lot of them are primerless. You also have minimum surface preparation, so you can remove the grinding, you don't need to put the primers in there. Very easy to use, really fast working, and you have that impact resistance, which I was talking about, the rubbers, and good fatigue. You've still got your high strength, you're up there with the epoxies, but you've also got a bit of flexibility, so you can really see the benefits of an MMA in the middle compared to a polyurethane and an epoxy. So for me, it's your go-to product of the best of both worlds and still in that premium category. Obviously, there's strengths and weaknesses of both, but just as an overall, MMA really hits the spot in my view. Now, I've just spoke about it, but just to highlight it a little bit more, the surface prep, now that is key. A lot of the times in production, time is of the essence. If you're having to grind away the top layer to make sure you've got that bond, you're adding a step into your production. Room temperature, so you don't need your really expensive ovens. You don't need to do the post-curing like you do with a majority of epoxies. You've got the variable working time. So we've got a couple of minutes up to hours, which really covers the full process that you will need in any kind of production. Bonding dissimilar substrates and materials, I mean, that is key in today's developments. Gone are the days where people are just bonding metal to metal. They want some weird and wonderful plastic, they're trying to use all different things of carbon fiber in supercars. And then we can change the rheology. So you can do large substrates like marine, and then small gap filling, like anything that you would require to really get in there and just fill in the gap and bond them two substrates together. And then putting it all together, you've got the good impact resistance tests. You should speak to our technical team. We've got some really cool videos of showing our products being in the use and being hit at really high load and just taking that impact, where an epoxy will just absolutely shatter and the PU will just probably bend with it. So absolute fantastic. Where these sit in the markets, well, the brilliance of it is they're so universal. They can be in everything. So a lot of marine vessels now, all in the leisure industry, all produced obviously using gel coat, composites, and MMA bonds them fantastically, all hull to deck. Composite structures, so if you're bonding aluminium to steel and adding a little bit of plastic in there, again, MMA adhesive will bond that no problem. Automotive, we've been in this game for years, bonding trucks, side panels, rail, floors, you name it, spoilers. MMA adhesive, you've got the 2 minutes if you were doing a spoiler and want to get it along the production line. Or example, in the marine, you're doing a hull to deck, you need probably 2 hours to get around the whole park. It's a large substrate and structure. MMA technology will do that. How are we doing it? Well, first of all, we're replacing the original welding and riveting, and I'll speak about that in a couple of slides. We're bringing the fast curing, what the MMAs are all about, so really helping the production lines move on. If you're working on a super yacht, that's fine, where it's holding pens for 2-3 years. But a lot of the applications and the markets we're surfacing are really trying to get moving. Wind blade repairs. Well, you don't want to be hanging around for hours if you're injecting a wind blade 200 foot in the air. It's really vital for that. The technical support that we offer, like I said, we have 2 manufacturing sites across the globe, both with labs. Both can do all in-house testing. We do all in-house filling. So really it makes us a manufacturer to pick from. And obviously we don't just say it ourselves. We're accredited with the people like Lloyd, DMV. We've got accreditations with certain OEMs as well that really just prove that our product can, we're ISO audited and everything like that. So it's not just us saying it. It's not like people like Stef, our partners. It's actually awarding bodies recognising our products, recognising us in the market, our expertise, our technical support, and our products are saying what our data sheets are saying. Now, I mentioned rivets and bolts and why MMA is vital. Well, the first thing that I say is if you do a rivet or a bolt or a screw, you're basically putting a hole into your substrate and that's creating a stress point. So not only, you're creating a stress point, you're also creating a hole. A lot of the stuff we're using in the market needs to kind of be waterproof. It needs to be sealed. If you put a hole in there, you open it up to rust, water ingress, you name it, you just open it. Also to be neat and tidy. Who here has ever, put screws in the wall and tried to get a straight line where it's near enough impossible? You have to get a jig. If you bond it, the bonds are normally 99% hidden, so it keeps it neat and tidy. It allows you to do different lightweight designs because you're using an adhesive rather than a bolt and a screw. Certain products can't take a bolt or screw. It can be easily accessible. If you're using a bolt, you need to get a spanner in there to tighten it up. You're just creating that kind of stress point. And also with a riveting and welding and things like that, skilled workforce is quite hard to come about. It's adding another step in the supply chain. You're having to train people. You're having, more different equipment. Things can go wrong. With an adhesive, once you've been trained, you know what you're using. You can use a pneumatic gun. You can use a battery gun. You can use a manual gun. It's going to hold it. It's going to bond it. You've got that quicker working time. You can move a lot more quicker. It's a lot more easier to walk it down and bond the trim line in than put it in place, put it in clamps, get your rivet gun out, make sure it's aligned, and then 99% of the time they'll probably put an adhesive on the back of it anyway, just to make sure. So that just gives you a little bit of an overview of what MMA is about and what we're about and what we're trying to do and what some of our successes in the market. And we thought it'd be great to share a success story with my partner, Stef, that I'm going to hand over to, because he's had a lot of success with BNS doing exactly what I've just explained. But obviously, if there's any questions, let me know and we can touch them afterwards. So, Stef, over to you, my friend.
Yes, well, thank you, Deklyn. So I already introduced myself in the beginning of the presentation. I started in 2004 at BNS. Originally, we had the traditional business in technical textiles. One of our business units is traditionally composite market, and in 2014 we started as an agent for SCIGRIP here in the Benelux and in Southeast Asia. And actually we grew quite rapidly thanks to, first of all, the product, which is excellent. So we work already 12 years with these products, and really we had no problem with this product at all. It's a very stable products which are manufactured by IPS. So what we have now in our facilities here in the Netherlands, we have a storage for 7.5 ton, material, so conditioned. We have 2 storages with air conditioners, especially in these hot days. It's important to store your materials cool. So, and for some applications in automotive, it's a must to have your materials stored at a certain temperature. And you must also prove that you stored it like this. So it's essential if you want to get into a higher segment. And we also have 1 storage for bulk, so for 12 drums of 200 liters. How did we start? So we started 12 years ago, and we first asked IPS, which are your success products, which was the SG5000, very easy product, it does the job. And then we started rapidly with, so soon after that, we started with the SG300. And this became really a success story for us. So not only traditionally in the composites, but also in bonding metals. So we sell small cartridges until large drums and everything in between. And I want to talk with you about a particular application called a Ventofoil. Okay, so what is a Ventofoil? If you have the next slide.
Of course. So yeah, so talk about it, Stef. You know, I've heard about this opportunity a lot. You've obviously been really successful with it. What, for everyone that doesn't know what Ventofoil is, hit us with it. Yeah.
So you see the article, I read this magazine a couple of years ago, and there was a story about giant ships which will sail again. So actually not complete sail, but they use Ventofoils to reduce the oil which they consume in the engines of the ships. And later on I will show you in a small slide how it works. But the important thing is, if you read an article and you think, hey, that might be interesting in bonding, just try to contact people and open a discussion. So I had this opportunity, and it seems that they already started in the beginning with bonding. So next slide, please.
So what did you do? Just call them up, Stef?
Yes.
And you just said, hey, we're BNS, we're representing SCIGRIP, and it started the conversation.
Not really. So in the first, I thought, it might be interesting for carbon fiber, because this was one of our traditional businesses. As you see in the picture, a Ventofoil is actually construction with a kind of skin outside. So actually, you can imagine a wing of an airplane. It's not horizontally, but vertically. And the lift effect of a wing of an airplane you use now as a sail.
Okay, so it's a sideways airplane. That's what you're telling me.
More or less, yes, makes sense. Yes. So this is actually the concept. So I called them actually for carbon fiber, because I thought, these things must also go down, so flip downwards, because if you have to enter a bridge, these sails must go down. So the weight is very important for this application, as you can imagine. Sure. But then they told me, listen, we're not using any composites, but we bond aluminium to steel. So maybe in the next slide.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so aluminium to steel, as you showed, Deklyn, in your presentation, if you refit it, you have some issues also in welding, because aluminium and steel is not easy to weld.
No.
So, and they already did some trials with some adhesives, MMA. They already concluded that MMA is the best solution. And why? Because the thermal expansion of aluminium is different from steel. And it makes no sense to do this with an epoxy, because it cannot handle the differences, especially when it's getting cold, because the aluminium shrinks more than the steel, and the epoxy is very rigid and it breaks.
So yeah, it become quite brittle, wouldn't it, in that application?
Exactly. Yeah. So they ended with an MMA, and then they started with an alternative MMA, until we came by with the SG300 of SCIGRIP. And what helped a lot is what you see, what you already showed in your presentation. It had the Lloyd's register approval, and also the DNV. So, and we had already this project, I have it here at the back, of me. It's called the Qualify project. It was a European subsidized project with a couple of million euros of subsidiary. And they did extensive testing on the adhesive, also dissimilar material bonding, on aging, impact, and all these kind of things. And it was in the end approved by Damen and AEB Systems in the UK. And there were several universities involved, Cambridge, the TU Delft here in the Netherlands, and in Ghent in Belgium. And it outperformed all the other adhesives which they selected in the beginning. So that was a very good start also for this application, because in the end it needs to survive the environment on oceans.
Sure.
And another benefit is that one product, you have it already in 3 different operation times. So the 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and 40 minutes. And it helped a lot for small parts which you need to bond with a fast curing system, and larger parts with a 40-minute open time.
So that would really help a large manufacturer that, you know, you've got one ratio, so they've got the same dispensers, but and obviously it's the same kind of training, same product, but like you say, you can have a 5 minute, you can have a 15 or 40. So it's kind of a one product solution, and you haven't got to change, or you need this one, or this needs that substrate. So yeah, I can see the benefit of that massively.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a 10-to-1 system. It's the SG300. And one of the other benefits is that what you already mentioned in your presentation, there are 2 production sites of this product in the US and in the UK. And sometimes this is mandatory, because if there is a kind of calamity at the manufacturing plant, like one of our competitors had last year in the US, you have difficulties in get materials. So this was solved because IPS has 2 different separate locations where they manufacture the adhesive.
Yeah, well, that's the reason I mention it. It's, you know, it's like you say, it's mandatory with most OEMs that you need to be able to supply if one site shuts down, because some of the contracts we're working on, and also defence, you know, you can't just say, sorry, we've got a supply issue. So it's vital that, you know, us as a global manufacturer have that option. We can flex some working times. I mean, our lead times, you know, under 3 weeks, which is still quite impressive. And then we've got obviously supply partners like yourselves that add on that expertise and next day kind of delivery.
Exactly. And the benefit of IPS, especially for us, because we are a neighbor country of the UK, that you have your materials in 3-4 weeks. And that's different than when you get materials from the US, which they selected before us. And they had a very long delivery times, a couple of months even, and also the material was quite expensive.
Yeah, sure. So you obviously, you recommended our product. They like the SG300. What happened next then, Stef?
Well, they tested the materials, so maybe you can show it in a video. So they bond 2 steel parts of 10 square centimeters, and they put on a load cell on it, which went up to maximum 2 tons. But as you can see in the video, they were not able to break it, so they stopped at 1900 with 10 square centimeters. And this was for them fantastic. It was already more than the material which they tested before. Very primitive way to test, but effective.
Sure. I mean, yeah, like you say, that would be substrate failure before adhesive.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. Very neat, nice photo there.
Sorry?
I was going to say, it's a very neat close-up photo, which just shows, you know, just how little adhesive is there to secure that part, you know, under all that stress.
Exactly. Yes. And this is so the lap shear strength, but also the impact. It's fantastic of the SG300 series. So this has also been tested in this Qualify and Ramses project, where they build a complete hull of a boat, and then a part of the hull, and then do an impact test and see how the bond lines react. But it was fantastic.
Cool. So application wise then, Stef, you spoke about it, but what's, you know, really, these are quite large parts. Everything went smooth. You know, talk us through this kind of how you got to the finish line, so to speak.
Yeah, so we started with, so they use, let's say, a stainless beam inside, and then they built an aluminium construction to make the wing itself and the skin of the wing.
So this is the photo on the right, yeah?
Yes, yes,
Yep.
correct,
Sure.
correct. So as you can see, it's similar to an airplane wing, and they put this vertically on ships. And so the challenge was not so big for the SG300 to bond steel to aluminium. Actually, it's quite an easy system. You don't need primer. And also in quite, so it's not a clean room where they bond.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. So, and it does the job.
Sure, which is what you want, right? You know,
Exactly.
You can see all the different airlines on the left-hand side. So I guess they're just pneumatic gun in it, going down the production line. So
Correct.
really interesting.
Yep.
So what were the challenges then, Stef? Because this is a good opportunity. Obviously, you got it over the line, the product performed, but look, we know this was never going to be straightforward, right? It never is, or we wouldn't have a job. So what happened? You know, how did you overcome it? What expertise did you bring to the mix?
Well, it was interesting because they started with a stainless steel beam, but stainless steel is quite expensive. So they changed the beam to a galvanized steel, but then they found out the bonding was not good. So, and they called me and said, listen, we have some issues with the bonding. So I was not aware that they changed from stainless steel to galvanized steel.
That's probably the worst product to change too, right? You know, galvanized bonding's not straightforward.
No, but I heard some rumors that IPS is working on a formulation also to do this job.
That is true. That is true. So yeah, we'll be completing the portfolio. I've mentioned it to a lot of people in the UK and Ireland. So yeah, watch this space. But yeah, that is very true. We will have a galvanized bonder very shortly.
Yeah. No, well, at that time there was no solution for bonding galvanized steel. So first we removed the surface of the galvanized steel just with abrasion, but it was not enough. So it's very tricky if you want to bond steel which is already vulcanized. This is something we learned from this project. So in the end we advised to put a plate on the spot of the beam where they want to bond later on with the SG300. So it's not galvanized the surface. And this was in the end the solution. And there was already some tests with Qualify that there will be no corrosion between the adhesive and the steel later on. So that was, this was in the end the solution.
That's great. So it's all worked well. It's going forward, and now on to the next opportunity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great business now. So they consume about 1,000 cartridges per month. So and why not bulk? Why cartridges? Because a lot of people are working at the same time with the adhesive. And so SG300 is in small cartridges and in the let's say half a liter and 50 mil. So for small areas they can use a small gun with the small cartridges, and for the larger areas they use the big cartridges.
Well, yeah, well, you're right on that, because it whilst everyone thinks bulk can be more cost effective, when you add into running machines and moving around your facility, cartridges are just so straightforward. You can just have your airline on the side, put it away, move on. When you've got dispensing equipment, it's great if your production line's staying still and you have two machines. But yeah, it makes sense on that kind of volume and that size. And like you say, you can just nip in there with a 50 mil, or if you need a 490 for the larger application.
Yeah.
No. That's really interesting. Any final comments, Stef, from your part? And really appreciate you sharing that opportunity, and look forward to the next 10 building up in the pipeline, right?
Well, I'm not, I don't know if in the audience there are people who are being a distributor of SCIGRIP or using it, but I can just recommend become a specialist. So work with the materials. It's amazing. And if you do the job yourself, you can also, you believe in the product and you can promote the product to customers or to your colleagues or whatever.
That's great. I think that's over to you then, Louise, to see if we've got any questions. Hopefully they're all aimed at Stef, but we do have our technical support if required.
Yeah, just in there in the question and answer section we've just had there, how was the plate mounted?
How was, sorry?
How was the plate mounted was the question.
Oh, yes, just drill a hole and make screw thread and then put it inside and then send it to galvanize the surface.
Okay. No other questions at the minute in the question and answer section. We'll give it a couple more minutes if anybody wants to put anything more in there, or if that answer wasn't enough, if there's anything else we need to know there, put something else in. No problem.
What I also can recommend, and what is also interesting about this 10-to-1 product, is this SG300, is that you can also play with the ratio. So it's normally 10-to-1, but you can go to 8-to-1 or 12-to-1. So and it will still do the job. It is just a matter that it will be slightly faster or slower. So you have more time or less time, and it can be handy when you are in colder environments or when it's hotter, that you just change a bit with the ratio, but it can only be done with bulk.
Yeah, I'd say it's quite a forgiving product, and that's where the MMAs really come into light.
Okay, that's great. It looks like we're running out of time, and that is the only question that we've got in there. If anybody else does want to ask any more questions, not a problem at all. Just go straight to the SCIGRIP website resources page, and there's a question answer there. You can fill something in, and we'll send you some answers back. Well, that's all we've really got time for today. Thank you to Deklyn, thank you to Stef for joining us, and of course, thank you for all of you. We do really appreciate your time and the participation. We will be putting a recording out, and that will come automatically direct to everybody on this call. I'll also be putting onto the website so you can see it there if you want to share it with anybody else. Thank you again, and we hope to see you next time. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye.